Welcome back, aliens. My name is Navin Reddy and let's continue with the series on JavaScript. In this video, we'll talk about loops. Now see, we'll divide this into two parts. In the first video, we'll talk about what is loop and what are different types of loops available. And in the next video, we'll see which loop to use at what situation. Okay, because that's a tricky part. We have three different loops to work with. Okay, so again, we'll talk about what is loop first, but then we have three different loops and people do get confused between which one to use when, and that we'll see in the next video. So if you know loops and you just want to know which one to use, you can directly jump to the next video. But if you want to understand how loop works, let's get started. So basically, in JavaScript, we have three different types of loops. We have a while loop, we have a do while loop, and then we have a for loop. Again, what is loop? We'll talk about it. As of now, let's start with what is loop. So let's say I want to do something repeatedly, and that's what loop means, right? You have to do something repeatedly. Example, every day you take a bath, every day you work, every day you eat twice in a day, but you do that repeatedly, right? Every day. That is what we call as a loop, right? So let's say I have a log statement here, and in this log statement I'm printing hi. Now if I want to print hi only once, I can simply write it once, right? And then when you run this code, of course you will get hi once. What if I want to execute this statement 3 times or 5 times? Okay, 3 times is easy. You can simply copy paste this. You can say copy, paste and paste. Of course you will get this 3 times. Okay, so we got 3 times, right? What if you want to do this 5 times? Of course you will say, hey, copy paste 2 more times. What if I want to do this 100 times, 200 times, 1000 times? Of course this doesn't make any sense, right? And then we have a very famous principle called as DRY, which is do not repeat yourself. Don't write the same statement multiple times. Can we just use one statement and run it multiple times? We can simply say, hey, we can just say, let's keep that in a block. Okay, so that's how you get a block, right? So let's put that in a block and say, hey, repeat this statement 5 times. That's it. If you do this and if you run this code, you got hi only once. What happened is because we have created a block, but then we have written a comment here. JavaScript will not even execute this comment. But if you write it without comment, of course, this is not logical statement or a syntactically correct statement, right? You have to write the same thing, but in a proper format which your JavaScript understands. So to write this, we have to use a type of loop. So the first type of loop we are going to use is a while loop. Now see, when you say repeat this statement 5 times, you need certain things here. First, how do you know how many times you have done that? So first we need a counter, right? So once, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, right? We need a counter here. And every time you have to increment this counter. You have to say 1, 2, 3. So you have to go ahead, right? And then you have to also check what is the current value, because you don't want to go beyond 5. You don't want to go to 6 or 7, 8 times. You want it only 5 times. So we need 3 things. The counter, we have to check for the condition, and we have to also increment it, right? Okay, so 3 steps. So we call that as initialize, and then the next step would be condition, and the third step would be increment, right? So we have these 3 steps. So the first step is you have to first create a variable which will act as a counter. So we'll say, we can use any variable name, doesn't matter actually, but logically let's go with I, because I means increment. Okay, so we'll say I equal to initially 1. That's how we start. Okay, and then if you remember last time we mentioned, we'll use semicolon at the end now. And then we also need to check for the condition. Now, can we use condition like if? Yes, we can do that, right? Because we want to just for the check for the condition, so we can use if. But then if will execute only once, right? That block executes only once. So if you say if I should be less than equal to 5, because that's the limit I want to go for. But then if will execute only once. So instead of using if, we will be using while, because while is a loop, it will get repeated. So can you see that? While, English word, which means repeat. You have to check for the condition. Okay, it will execute this every time this condition is true. But then we have to also make sure that you also increment. So example, when you print hi once, you have to make sure that the I value goes to 2, so that it will again print hi. Then to make sure that the I value goes ahead with 3. That's how you do, right? You say hi, 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 hi. So what you're doing here, you're checking for you're incrementing it, you're checking for the condition. Why I stopped it here, why I have not went for the 6th number? Because condition. Okay, so we'll say I plus plus. Remember, we can increment a value with the help of I plus plus. You can also say I equal to I plus 1, but then we have seen this, right? This is an amazing shortcut. Any guess what this is called? Use that comment section and answer that. What is this called? Okay, and the answer is it is post increment. We can also use pre-increment here because when you only have increment, not assignment, both behave the same way. Okay, will this work? Let's try. So let's go back here and run this, and you can see we got high 5 times. It's working, right? That's how your while loop works. So basically we have 3 things here. We have initial value, we have a condition, and we have a increment or decrement. See, there is no compulsion that there should be always a increment, okay? There's a different way you can do that. Example, if I don't do increment here, that's fine. You just have to change this condition. Maybe there has to be some other way of checking for the condition, because if you don't increment, it will not go ahead and it will simply say true for the entire lifetime. In fact, it will make sure that your machine hangs if you do that. So let's not do that. Let's do this 3 steps. So that's how your while loop works, right? Next, we have one more loop which is called do while loop. So what do while loop does is we have, okay, there's one more thing I want to show you. Let's say the value of I initially is 6. Now what will happen? When your value of I is 6, and then it will check for the condition, right? Is 6 less than 5? No, it's false. The moment you get false, it will directly jump out, which means the block will not get executed even once. Let me show you that. So if you go back and if you say run, we have not got any output because the block is not getting executed. Okay, so if you go back to 1, now let's see what is happening. Let me just run this code. You can see high 5 times. The I value is 1 here. It will go inside. It will check for the condition. Is 1 less than 5? Yes. It will go inside. It will print high. So we got high ones. And then it will say I plus plus. That means it will increment the value of I. Now the value of I is 2. So it will check. Is 2 less than 5? Yes. It will print high, and then it will go ahead, it will make I value 3. Again it will repeat, it will make it 4 and then 5. At one point the condition will be false and it will come out. That's how it works. Now the question for everyone, and the question is, what if I print the value of I here? What is your guess? What will be the value of I? So again, pause the video, and since I'm asking multiple questions in each video now, you can specify the timeline so that it will be helpful for others. So we are printing I. What will be the value of I here? I hope you have answered that. And the value is 6. Now that's weird, right? We are saying the value of I should be stopped at 5. See, what is happening is after several increments, the value of I will be, let's say, 4. Okay. In this case, it will print high. It will increment the value. Our value of I becomes 5. It will go up. Is 5 is less than equal to 5? Yes, it is equal to 5. It will print high. It will make the value of I 6. Okay, then it will check, is 6 less than equal to 5? No, that's false. So we got false, but what's the value of I? It is 6, right? And that's why we got 6. Cool. Okay, one thing to remember, we have 3 steps here: initialization, condition, and increment. Okay, you can also do reverse here. Okay, example, if you want to start from 6, or you can start from 5. So this time we are doing reverse. In fact, what I will also do is, before doing that, let me also print the value of I. So it will print high 1, high 2, and let's do that. And you can see we got high 1, high 2, high 3, high 4, and high 5. Oh, that's amazing, high 5. Okay, but then what if you do reverse? So I can say I equal to 5, and then I is greater than equal to 0, because this time we are going in reverse order. So I will go from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, like a countdown. And then instead of using increment, you have to say decrement, because every time you want to reduce the value of I. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's try, and we got it. So you can see we got 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. That's tricky. We got 6. It's because it is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay, so we should not be going till 0. We should be going till 1. So either you can make this as 1. That's one way of doing it. Or keep it 0. Remove this equal to symbol. So when you say I should be greater than 0, it will stop at 1. Okay, so you have 2 choices. Let's run this, and you can see we got 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Cool. So that's how we can do increment and decrement. Okay, but one thing to observe. What if you say, let's say this is 0, okay? Or maybe let's keep it as 5, and we'll go back to our original way, which is less than equal to 5, and we'll say plus plus. So in this case, of course, we are going for increment basis now. And let me set this value of I here as 10. Now what do you think? It will even print it once? And the answer is no, it will not print even once, right? Because that's how while loop works. So while loop will first check for the condition, then only it will go ahead. So what if you want to just execute it and then check for the condition. So in that case, you can use do while. So in do while, what you do is you check for the condition later. So after the curly brackets at the end, you will check for the condition. Now what it will do is it will say, okay, the value of I is 10, that's fine. Do says, okay, go inside. It will check, okay, we are printing the value of I, and then we are saying I plus plus. It will make the value of I as 11. It will come down and say, okay, 11 is less than or equal to 5. No, just go out of the loop. That's it. But it will print the output at least 1. That's the thing behind do while. But yes, if you start with 1, there is no problem. It will behave the way it was behaving before. So do while and while, they're almost same. The only difference is, so in while you first check for the condition, then you print the block or you execute the block. In do while it is reverse. First it will execute the block, then it will check for the condition. So that was do while and do while. We have one more, right, which is for loop. So let's do that in the next video. It's already lengthy video, so let's do the for loop in the next video. Again, we have a separate video where we'll talk about which is the best one to use at what condition. So that's it from this video. Bye bye.